Plan of today's video was to kind of dive into the first two games of the Xabi Alonso reign at Real Madrid, the two opening games in the World Club Cup. However, the early sending off to Asensio last night kind of gave me a problem. Obviously, they changed the system a fair bit. They ended up going with kind of two split strikers with Vinicius Jr. playing more centrally. So it was really tricky to see kind of, I think the sending off was after like 7 minutes. So really tricky to see what was going on. So we're kind of basing this off the first game in particular. I appreciate that it's just one game and at the same time it was extremely hot, but you can see the patterns and the movements, and also probably the biggest glaring problem that he needs to fix, and I think he tried to solve it a little bit in the second game with the inclusion of Arda Güler. So something we're going to look at is that midfield right there. Now on paper you think Bellingham, Tchouaméni and Valverde. Most clubs around the world would probably want a midfield like that, but I do think there's a real lack of technical quality in build-up. Valverde's a runner. Tchouaméni can do it a little bit, but he's not amazing at it. He's very much sort of like a defensive midfielder. And then Jude Bellingham potentially can do it. I have argued a long time for even England that he goes in alongside a Declan Rice and be that kind of a creative sort of volante where we know he can get the ball from deep. He's strong enough, he's big enough, he can turn, he can pass. He's maybe not got that expansive range of passing, something that they are missing. Perhaps the solution, and what we saw a little bit on the first game against Al Hilal, was to invert Trent. Now, it wasn't extreme. It was sometimes looking like a little bit of a double pivot, but very rarely in build-up. In build-up, he kind of came into this little bit of a half space area with the 2-8s, going a little bit higher. Rodrigo and Vinny there, we get exciting roles. We kind of see Vinny as that inside forward, but if you look at his heat map from the game, extremely high and extremely wide. So something that we're going to have to look at in the game. And then they often built up with a little bit of a back three, with Garcia at fullback, kind of being a left centre half. And I've got a couple of screenshots to kind of show you the role of Trent and what they were trying to create. So the first picture in possession shows Bellingham out on the left-hand side. He's got Vinny just inside him. He's got Garcia supporting Valverde. And as you can see, Trent there, number 12, in kind of that double pivot, inside kind of inverted fullback kind of position. And then as the play develops, the ball's been switched across. As you can see, he's staying extremely narrow. This is, I think, Asensio on the ball, centre half, and he's pointing to give that ball out wide to Rodrigo. And as you can see, Rodrigo been extremely wide. Trent is kind of holding that player next to him so they can't go and double up against Rodrigo. So it gives the opportunity for Rodrigo to have a 1v1 opportunity. Rodrigo gets it. Trent then makes that little run inside look and just creates that huge space look for Rodrigo to go into. He cuts in and has a decent effort, which I think eventually goes over the bar or keeper saves it. Just a little instance there of what Trent is potentially going to do. Now, the issue, as I said, is that they're going to struggle in build-up a little bit. Even when Asensio goes out, Rudiger's not far from being fit. I think he will actually probably play in the next game. They have got a little bit of a problem in build-up. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what they can do to solve it. Are they going to maybe just bring Trent in a little bit more? I forgot to show you as well. We didn't actually mention in the picture. Look where Vinny is. He's right on that left-hand side, still hugging the touchline, even though the ball's right. And you'd normally expect him to be coming in, but he's been told to really keep the width so they can recycle the ball. They're in a nice little bit of rest defence. They've got the two centre-halves, hoisting in the middle of Garcia, who's very much holding as a left-back. Interesting, is he planning on hopefully having a half-decent Alaba been fit for the season? And kind of building up like that, because Alba would be a better progressor. Maybe Camavinga coming in at times for Tchouaméni, who could probably move the ball better. Interested to know your thoughts on that. Is Camavinga a better progressor than Tchouaméni? You know, the loss of Modric, the loss of Toni Kroos is, that's big. That's pretty big. I don't know if Trent is the solution, but then if that is the case, who do you replace in that midfield three? And then the next problem he has, what the hell do we do with this guy? Like, Gonzalo, to be fair, has been tremendous. Not just because he scored a goal. His goal was actually really lucky, double touch. But he started the counter-attack for the goal. A couple of lovely layoffs for the goals that they scored in yesterday. So that's potentially one option. Gonzalez maybe plays a little bit more, but, when you've got Mbappe ready to go, he's going to have to find a place in this team. And I think the idea is that he will probably play as the central striker and be allowed to perhaps roam. He started to roam a little bit more, get off the backs. He hates playing on the backs of centre-halves unless he's going in behind. He wants to show to feet and play and dribble. So he may do that and allow Bellingham and Valverde and Rodrigo to kind of even go ahead of him at times. That might be a potential option. The other option that they actually used for last night's game, and it's a shame it was kind of spoilt, was the introduction of Arda Güler. And they actually took out Rodrigo, which was a little bit strange because I thought he was pretty good in the first game, always gives you a shift. And he played as one of the more attacking eights and obviously really creative, decent on the ball, could drop in and be a little bit like a roaming playmaker. So they've got issues. They have got issues, Real Madrid, I think, potentially in build-up. Is he just going to keep it quite set, quite easy, quite functional? I think maybe at times teams try and overcomplicate things. Like when you've got Mbappe, Bellingham, Valverde, Rodrigo if he stays, Trent, Tchouaméni, Vinicius Jr., maybe you don't need to overthink things and just have a really good base. Like the rest defence that they've got out of possession looks really solid. If Alaba comes in there, Rudiger, Huijsen, Tchouaméni sitting, Trent allowed to roam and Valverde allowed to roam in these sort of like half spaces. Belling was going to hit that area, exactly what he did for the goal, keeping Vinny wide and just allowing those front guys to kind of dominate the game like that. I don't think they're in the market. Well, they're in the market. They looked at Zubamendi, right? But I do think they need another sort of like midfield profile in there. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. All right, so this is what I've put together in Football Manager. Now, I've done it on the basis of having Mbappe back. And as you can see, we're actually going to play a game today. We're going to play the game against Real Betis. We're going to go through it, kind of watch some of the key highlights, and then we'll break down the tactic at the end. By the way, the tactic will be available for the Patreons. Link down in the description. And then we'll kind of go, if you want to spot the channel, by the way, that'd be lovely. And then we'll go through kind of all the player instructions. There's a fair few player instructions and stuff as we try and tweak things as we go. So it is a basis 4-3-3. So the idea is that Valverde, I think the problem we may get is Trent going there. They definitely need Valverde to cover this wide right position at times and be definitely a little bit wider in possession. So that's why we got the Carrilero. Bellingham, Tchouaméni. We've put Alaba in because I do think if the plan is, if they do this sort of like inverted kind of fullback at times, I've put him as a wing back on defend, but inverted fullback would probably work. Alaba, if he can get himself fit, I think would be a decent option and a really good progressor of the ball. So we're going to do it a little bit different today. Very rarely do I kind of do a one-off game and kind of see... I think it's just a good way to see live, for me anyway, of how the tactic is shaping up. It's going to work. It's Real Madrid, isn't it? And I think most things will work for Real Madrid. And I don't think Xabi Alonso needs, especially in the first season, to go too crazy. Well, he sorts a couple of issues in maybe build-up, trying to find the Mbappe. We're going to probably make loads of videos on this over the course of the season of how the hell he kind of gets this working in terms of the Mbappe, the Vinicius, Rodrigo, if he stays. Yeah, the potential, not issues, they're good issues, aren't they? But definitely problems of, how to deal with an Mbappe. And because we're super nerds on the channel, we're actually going to watch it in 2D. Sorry about that. I think at times what they may do as well, like we can't really do it well in Football Manager, not directly anyway, is I think they'll be extremely compact. They'll be high, but they'll be quite compact. There will not be... The pressing numbers were not great. They had like three wins in the attacking third in the game against Al Hilal, but because of the heat, I think it was more mid-block. But I think what you will do is to try and compensate the lack of quality with maybe Vinicius and Mbappe is that they stay really compact, quite high, but quite compact like this, a very narrow, a very tight, compact unit, and try and force teams maybe out wide. Obviously, we've got Valverde in there, who's going to be excellent at pressing. Bellingham, we know, is going to be really good in high turnovers. Be interesting what we get with Mbappe. So we've put him as this trequartista. I just thought it was a good role. I looked at false nine and I just thought, look, the kind of movements that he's going to make, we'll still get. I'm hoping that you'll see these kind of advanced forward runs from him at times because we still want to kind of utilise that pace. Oh, Anthony's in. We're fine. We don't want to lose to an Anthony goal, do we? So let's see where we are in build-up. So here we go. This is kind of the 3 and the 1 that we spoke about. Rudiger, Huijsen and Alaba. Alaba could be a little bit narrower. I have got sit narrow on, so we might see where that play develops. See, really, he could... Tchouaméni needs to be... He's kind of taking up his position a little bit. So maybe we look at a change there and maybe an inverted fullback. See if that gets him a little bit narrow when the highlight ends. Because he's too wide. He's not, by the way, Mbappe's in. He's missed. How do we create that little chance? I said this is a real different sort of video of me kind of going through it live with you. So if you like this little change up that I've done this evening, it's because I hadn't had much time to plan and prep and watch loads of games. So I thought we'll get the tactic going and see how it goes. So Rudiger into Højsund. So we are getting that little look. That's an Mbappe running, isn't it, off the shoulder. So that's fine. I think sometimes you see that trequartista and you think, oh, he's just going to float about. But no, he's had that injection of pace to get him behind, which is good. And then when the highlight's over, we should now have Alaba playing a little bit narrower. So yeah, he's extremely narrow. Obviously, we're out of possession. Right, so Rudiger steps in, Valverde. Liking Bellingham's position, that's where he'll be. Vinicius Jr. down the left as a winger. Shoots, good save. We've started the game. We drew the first game and we've only just nicked the second game. We had like 20 odd shots on goal in both games and struggled to bloody score. But most of the action is coming for us. So too many. How are we looking? So Trent, nice and central, help with this. So he's got the opportunity. He actually did a couple from this sort of like the Rudiger range and he played a few over to Vinicius Jr. But that was the passing sequence that he had. I think he had 9 completed passes to Rodrigo. And this is, look, we've now got, because of these inside runs of Valverde and Trent, we've got Rodrigo 1v1 against a Parode. That's what we want. Lovely cross. Oh, unlucky. And then obviously Valverde, good at box crashing. Bellingham, good at box crashing. So there's Mbappe's made that run, look, which is super. If I just bring it back, let me just highlight the play so you kind of see what's going on. Watch this little dart. That. So really, you know, if that was played, it could be a little clip of... If that was Trent, that would probably sweep in there, wouldn't it? Rodrigo. Here he's Mbappe now, so he's very much doing the Mbappe kind of running. He's found Vinny, and it's a decent chance. We've started well. All us in match momentum. Right, how are we going to build Courtois? I've not put anything special on him. He's like my favourite, by the way. He's my favourite goalkeeper. I absolutely love him. Just goalkeeper, isn't he? So a lot of the time he is going to go long. At least, you know, I think the thing is there, he could have probably played out from the back. So Alba's still, I suppose he's in a decent position to him, and he's kind of in his way a little bit. He's maybe just trying to get on the ball, but he's found Trent, found Tchouaméni. Valverde, this is nice. Mbappe, that's nice. So Mbappe, even that trequartista is kind of roaming and floating, and poof, then all of a sudden he's then going into that advanced kind of striking mode. Direct, quick, finding the channels, wants them long balls. I think I'm really looking forward to those Trent kind of whipped passes, clips over the top for Mbappe to run onto. As I said, there'll be more videos on this. I'm going to try and do a lot of videos game by game basis and try and, you know, this is how they kind of set up. This is how they played for particular games because he's going to change it. Rodrigo has lost out. Courtois, just play. Good. So Alex. So I think if anything, he's still a little bit narrow. He's a little bit narrow for me there. I'd be interested to see how far. He didn't really venture into these roles. He was more in the half space kind of areas. Bellingham. Valverde, it's a lovely pass. Rodrigo, we're in. We're in. Rodrigo, the goal scorer. We do get beautiful 3D in a minute, boys. Don't worry. There you go. So Vinicius Jr., Bellingham in the advanced role. Look, Rodrigo keeping that width in until the last second. And a lovely, I don't know what kind of finish was that, but we're going to take it. We're 1-0 up, and it's a deserved 1-0 lead. Okay. It's a terrible pass. That's a Football Manager pass. Look, I'm sorry, but I just think in these scenarios, where the hell does he miss out 2 players? It just don't happen, does it? It don't happen. But it's fine. We can get ourselves set. I'm still thinking at times they may press in more of a 2. Bellingham was definitely part of the 4-4-2 press. I just think if Mbappe is going to be up there, they might just kind of forget about it to start with and go back into more of a mid-block and just have like a 4-5-1 out of possession or a 4-4-1-1 probably and have Bellingham back a little bit more. Vinny's going to nick it. Oh, he's at the post. Oh, nice high turnovers though. Do they potentially need to maybe look at the Tchouaméni thing's an interesting one? Do they maybe, because of Valverde and Bellingham, where you've got that aggression, that energy, off the ball kind of work, do they really need to go out and sign a lovely number 6? You know, a really talented technical kind of player. You know, they were looking at Angelo Stiller, I think. Well, I don't know what happened to that because I thought that was supposed to be the guy, but I don't know what happened. So we're absolutely dominating the game. Half time, 1-0. I'm gonna try and keep as many other players on the actual pitch at the time. We're not going to do subs unless we get injuries. Yeah, so for me here, this is the thing with the inverted. It's quite tricky. I would kind of prefer Trent to be in this area here for now with this first little bit of build-up because this is where he kind of was. And then as the game develops on the other side, see now he's coming out and then he goes back in, which I kind of understand. It's kind of the mechanics of the positional player. So this is where we do want him now, but he's making the same runs as Valverde. So maybe Valverde potentially could become a little bit of more of a box-to-box midfielder. And then that will allow a little bit more space. Because I think we want probably Trent going on that underlapping run rather than Valverde, just because of the quality of Trent. So we'll see how that changes it. So this is what you got to do, guys. I'm only on extended, but play out your pre-season and then just start watching it and tweak. And at the end of the game, we'll make the tweaks and then we save the tactic. And this is what I basically do. This is how I build the tactics. I kind of have an idea and then we go with it and see what kind of looks, what you think would happen in real life. Sometimes, I try and make the tactics as realistic as possible, but it gets to the point where to make it realistic in terms of how it looks in FM is a little bit different. And what you think was a role that would work doesn't not work in terms of the success out of it and making a tactic score you 3 million goals in 5 games, like the meta kind of shit. But I'm trying to create something that looks right. And sometimes you just got to change the roles to kind of get the movements of perhaps other players. So Valverde's actually injured, which is a bit of a nightmare. But Betis have scored. A second shot of the game. Down the left, this is where we're going to struggle, aren't we? Rodrigo and Trent. So that's where we kind of do need Valverde. So it could maybe be a Volante. Maybe. But that necessarily wouldn't. I suppose it would probably help a little bit. I want to see where this play develops. So Valverde's still kind of making that run. We've scored a goal. We're back in the lead. But I was kind of more paying attention to the role of Valverde there. And he's still kind of blocking. See that forward run? That was not the solution that I wanted. So I think we're probably better off still doing the Carrilero. I haven't got further forward on. I don't think we just put a ball-winning midfielder for him. We could do. That'd maybe stop the forward runs, maybe. Let's have a little look. We're on 64. Poor old Valverde. I think this is a problem with Valverde because he's so flexible. He does like it. Obviously, it stops him. Let's hold position. Obviously, the out of possession stuff is not so much of a thing. It's more the in position. We didn't actually look at the goal, did we? We should really look at the goal. So, Trent to Valverde. We're using Rodrigo. Definitely these 1v1s, these wingers. I think the inside movements of Valverde is definitely helping. Like we had with those clips of Trent. That is then moving into kind of occupying maybe a holding midfielder. It's allowing then Rodrigo to be 1v1. So that's probably better. Probably better because Valverde's now not in the way of Trent. And then Trent's got a little bit. That's better. I'm more happy with that. I think even at times as well. Should we be really brave and just even go wing back on attack? See what happens when we change that with Trent. See if he really goes on that underlapping run. Okay, let's see where Trent goes now. So he's in that little spot. That's better positioning for me. I don't know if it's because Valverde's staying in there, it's stopping Trent going in there early doors. So he's not so much of a real classic inverted full wing back. Mbappe, that's what we want. That's what we really want from Mbappe. Just quickly dropping in, and then Vinicius coming from wide to narrow. Scored. I'm not commentating on the bits that this was set piece. This was second phase corner. Rudiger's found himself in the right wing position. So I'm not commentating on them, but I'll kind of show you the goals. Look, Mbappe's headed the ball. To be fair, that was unlikely, number one. Horrendous goalkeeping from Adrian. Right, Trent, Valverde, Trent. Try that little run from Mbappe. Keeps his width though. Rodrigo went in, did then, and Trent kept his width. So this is better. Trent's definitely in a better position because I think he can't go in there because of Valverde, and that's kind of what we wanted. I love it when you make tweaks and it kind of starts coming together and you see things a little bit differently. Great save from Cotta. I tell you what, let's have a little change for the last few minutes. I don't know how much you'll see of it, but maybe just the AP because he's struggling a little bit. And Ardagula. How much of a creative player in there will then... No, he combined really well. Trent, was it young Gonzalo and then Gula? I think was it the first goal or second goal? Right, Valverde. Rodrigo. Is he on Gula? No, he's not on yet. Mbappe, Bellingham over the bar. See, that's where we want Mbappe, innit? Getting to that byline, cutting the ball back. I don't know how we've only got... I think it's because of maybe the press. We are squeezing high, but we've not got a really high line of engagement. Because I thought we'd probably get played around a little bit too much with having it as a 4-3-3 rather than like a 4, with a shadow strikers. Bellingham, that's pure Bellingham. Vintage Bellingham. But yeah, playing Bellingham as a central midfielder rather than a cam, it kind of means your press needs to be a 4-4, 4-1-4-1 or a 4-5-1 rather than Rudiger's in. Love set pieces in Football Manager, don't we? Rather than that sort of like 4-4-2 press. To be fair, we're probably going to see a lot of that, aren't we, with Trent on? We've had 34 shots, guys. Right, last little snippet. So Trent's gone on a little overlap there, number 14, as you can see. So he's kept his width. Play him, Rodrigo. Oh, this is beautiful. Beautiful. Mbappe, Vini. Oh, we should have scored. We should have scored. Right, I'm going to leave it there, guys. I don't know if there'll be any other goals to finish. No, it finished 4-1. Look, 35 shots, 16, 4 shots. Yeah, beautiful. Right, how does that beautiful tactic now look? Okay, so here we go. Courtois, sweeper keeper, on defend, no player instructions. You could even do bog standard goalkeeper for him. Trent, we've gone inverted wing back on support, but remember we flipped and gone to attack at times. I think if you're wanting to hold on to games, potentially maybe just having him on defend or wing back on defend. I did that with the Liverpool one actually. Wing back on defend, more direct passes and take more risks. Rudiger and Huijsen, I've just both gone central defenders on defend. What I would have is having one of them mark the central striker. So that means if a central striker's in here, when we're in possession, Rudiger will probably go and stand near him. I just like to do that. So probably go Rudiger actually because he's better in those physical duels. And then on the left hand side, now we did start him a wing back on defend, but we actually changed that quite early, wasn't it? So it was an inverted full back on defend for Alaba, or the left back role Garcia. Mendy could do that, no problem. Tchouaméni, bog standard DM on defend. Valverde, we went Carrilero, but he was kind of getting those roles in, wasn't he? So we've gone ball winning midfielder, hold position and mark tighter. You can't have Takalada on. Can you do a press? Can you do a presser? Can't do any more press, which is weird. Central midfielder on attack for Bellingham. Close down more Takalada. We'll get that running there, no problem. Rodrigo, winger on support, cut inside with the ball, obviously. And then the same for Vinicius Jr., but we've got him on attack, cut inside with the ball. And Mbappe, mark tighter, just so he does a little bit more out of possession. Trequartista, and there you go. Now, positive mentality, wide attacking width. We want those two wide players, as wide as possible, exploiting the fullbacks as much as we can. Underlapping left and right, the run of Bellingham, the run of Trent. Let's try and wait and kind of force that. Slightly shorter passing, we're not going to be too... I think the possession number is a little bit low because of that, so we could knock that down one, but I do think the idea is that we get the ball forward into those forward players as much as we can, and then everything else on their left blank. If anything now, with Mbappe playing, probably low crosses and even working to the box, I will put that one on, because I think that's probably more realistic. In transition, we're going to slow it down. We're going to be quite calm and patient in possession, but we are going to counter-press. I think the counter-pressing will be better. Valverde, I think, and Bellingham will be asked to play extremely high at times in that 4-1-4-1, and get the midfield four of Vini, Rodrigo, Bellingham and Valverde quite high, pushing on to maybe 2 6s. Counter-attacking, yes, when we can, obviously. And then we've gone much higher, but with a mid-block. So I think the issue is that can they be as compact and as tight as possible? With that, then, we're going to trap the team outside, and that should help us with our little bit more of a narrow shape. Save it. There you go. Xabi's debut is there for you Patreons. Thank you very much for watching. Smash a like on today's video. Let me know if you've really enjoyed that new, not so much new, but we'll do it from time to time where we kind of put the tactic together, have a kind of breakdown, go through the game and see what changes need to be made. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.